everybody. Welcome to Our Healing Voices podcast and YouTube channel. I'm Aaron Lehman, and today's episode is episode 43 featuring Tony Alvarado. I am really excited about this episode, and I know y'all hear me say that every episode that I get excited, but I truly am. This conversation is going to be, I'm really intrigued to see where we go. Tony and I met teaching high school at the same school over in Glendale, Arizona, RSK. And I know we both share a special, that place has got a special place in our heart. But so fortunate to have met Tony at that time. And as I think back on as I think about how my transition into this like body, mind, spirit, healing arts world, wellness world, or whatever, no doubt in my mind, it is so clear to me that you were a healing presence. You are a healing presence in your classes today. You were a healing presence in your classes then. And so when I thought this spring, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to interview Tony for this podcast and get him on here and dive in. So those of you who are brand new to the podcast, I want to just clarify a little like where this all began. First off, body, mind, spirit, wellness. I know we're all on unique paths, unique journeys. We use different language when we're talking about aspects of our body, mind, spirit journey. And so what I've found over this last 20 years, say since college, has been kind of how do I not feel alone as I choose to love myself today and also have a growth mindset? How do I not feel alone on that path, right? How do I show up for myself today in kind, loving ways? And then how also do I have visions of ways in which I can shift and grow and improve over my lifetime? I really have found that to be quite the journey. And sometimes it's felt super lonely, where you're like, oh my gosh, who do I talk to about this stuff that I'm learning? Maybe you have a deep dive conversation with a friend on a run. Tony and I like to go running together and dive in deep. It's like you have those conversations, and then what? Where do you go from there? How do you take nuggets from that conversation and then apply it? Or maybe you went to a retreat in Puerto Rico or something, and you came back and you're like, oh my gosh, am I the only one that cares about stretching every day? Or am I the only one that, where are the friends that want to have these conversations about just deeper topics? And not to say Tony and I don't talk sports, and not to say Tony and I don't talk music, and all these, it's like, it's not one or the other, right? We're all humans. Yep. And I think it's just, for me, the body, mind, spirit, wellness world is kind of a zone that maybe we don't always feel open and free to talk about and dive into. And so for me, this podcast was like, hey, there are a lot of people. I keep meeting a lot of people that are having body, mind, spirit, wellness transformations and are like making little shifts, changing habits, making little growth, like choosing the growth mindset, right? Where it's like, oh, like, all right, I'm a pretty good dad, or I'm a pretty good mom, but like, I want to make this little shift. Or, like you learn something and then you're like, I want to keep growing, right? And I think that my prayer and my hope with this podcast is that this reminds us we're not alone on that journey of improvements and shifting and transforming, that other people are on the path with us. So that's long story short, wanting us to know we're not alone. And then the second piece is like also that our voices matter. So I could probably rock. I do love to talk. I love a microphone. No lie. That's honest, but part of the reason I want to interview other people, and who knows where I'll be at a decade from now with this podcast, but like, I love interviewing other people who are on the path, who are choosing to make shifts in their life, who are choosing some body, mind, spirit, wellness modalities, because I want us all to realize how powerful our voices are, and like, whether you're listening to this and this is your first episode that you're listening into, your voice matters 100%. Like if Tony and I had the opportunity, I 100% believe like if we could, we would say, hey, let's sit down, let's get a coffee, tell us what's up, tell us how you're doing. You know, we would genuinely want to drop in and dive in with you, and hear your voice. Like everybody, in my humble opinion, the more spaces we can create that remind us that our voice matters, right? Where our voice matters at the table. I think that's really important, right? Where it's like, where other people are curious, right? And you bring your stories. And then if somebody wants advice or feedback, then they request it, you know, and you just have this like back and flow conversation, and also an open space where you can share your voice. So, all right, Our Healing Voices is about body, mind, spirit wellness, reminding us we're not alone on the journey. And then two, reminding us that our voices are super critical. Maybe you have a book inside. Maybe you want to shoot me a message because you want to be on an episode, a future episode. Whatever the case may be, our voices are important. So, all right, on that note, Tony Alvarado, I am so stoked to drop in. And let me, like, my little bio intro for you is, yeah, dude, you're a healer in the classroom. You're a math teacher, but like from what all the students that we kind of each had, they were, I always just got, everybody's like, oh, Alvarado's next level. Like there, you know, and I never dove in deep, but I'm excited to like hear kind of your thoughts on this. But what I've gathered from you is when you choose to do something, you're there.
Yep.
You know, like, and the students feel that. And so like when I like, as I think back, I'm like, Tony was in that classroom and he was 100% in that classroom. And that feels different when the teacher is locked in, right?
Well, yeah, it feels, well, first off, I appreciate all those kind things. It's very humbling to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean, what I've learned is kids are so far and away, like they're the most observant people on the planet. They're just little sponges because their minds aren't developed. They're not like, you know, I'm at a point where some people could describe me as set in my ways and certain things, and kids aren't really like that. Yeah, they will totally call you out on BS. If you're blowing smoke, they will not hesitate to just say, you know what, you're full of crap and I'm not going to listen to you because now you have a credibility problem. You have to be there 100%, full mind, full body, full spirit in the moment. There's no other place that you can be. And if you're trying to be somewhere else, you're not going to be effective. You're going to lose out on, you know, your credibility is shot because you can't be there. One of the things that I learned, I learned two things from teacher school a long time ago, and they had nothing to do with lesson plans. And that's what everybody freaks out about. Like I remember my first teaching job, that was what I was worried about the most. And then I just had to go back and remember in teacher school, it's like, no, man, it's about be relatable and be relevant. That's all you have to do. You can do those two things. You're going to have a very successful career. It doesn't matter if you're teaching math or language arts or typewriter maintenance. It doesn't matter. As long as you're relevant and you can relate, you're going to be fine. And that's what I try to do. And, you know, is math the most exciting topic in the world? Well, sometimes it's not, but it's one of those things where the thing I appreciate about teaching is that it gives me an opportunity to interact with kids and kind of show them things, and just help them. Like we were talking earlier, if you just plant that one seed and it blossoms, and then 15 years from now, you're seeing a kid like changing the world, and you're like, holy smokes, 15 years ago, I had this moment with that kid. And now look what's happening. And you stack up a bunch of those, and that's a pretty profitable career.
Totally. So so relevant, relatable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So as you've been a teacher, like what's, I guess, yeah, two questions, like two things that you've sought to bring, like what have you sought to yeah, whether it's life wisdom or whether it's, obviously math,
Mm-hmm.
or, like what are a couple things, and then what are two things you've learned, like, or like a takeaway from, like, maybe it's from a specific student, even, like, but what are like two, like, pieces of wisdom that, like, being a teacher locked into your soul, you know what I mean? Like, where it's
So
like,
yeah,
ding,
that's first off, I one of the things that it does is you have to be, and one of the things that the last 2 to 3 years especially has taught me is you have to be super flexible. You have to be in the moment. This job is not just, here, we're doing chapter 9 today and we're going to test you on it next week, and if you don't pass, well, I guess you're going to be back next year, because, well, it is what it is. This job is way more than that. And especially in the last 3 years, you have to be a healer. You have to be a seeker. You have to be someone who's open to hear. You have to be part psychologist. I may want to send a kid to the office. Like, I would tell a student, I'm probably not the best person you should be telling this to. I'm not trained. I'm not qualified. And nope, I need to tell you this. Okay, well, they're probably going to tell me that because I listen and because I'm present. And that you gotta be like that. And what that allows me to do is, and I catch myself all the time, unfortunately, and I'm trying to get better. But sometimes, like, especially with my wife, she's like, you catch yourself not being present, and it's like, what am I doing? I can't be like that, because I'm not going to be successful at home if I'm not doing the same things that are making me successful in my work environment. But you gotta be present. You gotta be there. You gotta care. You gotta give a crap and be real about it, because kids are going to see right through you if you don't. One of the things that I think that has helped me, and I think students appreciate this, is I'm not going to lie to them, and I'll give you the answers that, even if it's not what you want to hear, I'm going to tell you. And you look, hate me today if you don't like what I'm saying, but love me tomorrow. I don't know, maybe it takes a couple of days, but I'm not going to lie to you. And I think that's part of the journey, is I'm not going to tell you things that you want to hear, that you necessarily want to hear. I'm going to be truthful with you. And I think if that's when students realize that I'm not going to lie to you, and I'm going to be perfectly honest, I'm going to tell you what I expect, and I'm going to tell you how I am, and I'm going to walk the walk. I think students respect that a lot. And I think that's why people like you and me have been successful in the classroom. It's because we're going to have those conversations where students, we're going to tell someone, like, look, you can't do that with other human beings. Like, I had a case this year where a kid was basically bullying a kid. I pulled him aside. You can't do that. You just can't. It's not fair to the kid. It's not fair to you. And you're the one who needs to heal, and you're the one who needs to recover from this, and you're taking, aggressions out on other kids. It's not right. You can't do it. And those are hard conversations to have. But, if you're truthful and you're honest about it, that's huge for kids.
Amazing. So really, that presence, showing up. They know if you're not there. They know if you don't care.
Yep.
And they see through the lies very easy, right?
And isn't it funny how, and I'm sure you experience this too, it's funny how you probably had students come into your office during downtime or off time, and they would say, so-and-so teacher, I can't talk to them because they won't listen to me. that's my job, is to listen to you. Like, why am I not going to do that? Not only as a teacher, like I get a paycheck for doing it, but as a human being, that's what I need to do, is I need to listen to you. If, and especially as adults, right? If as adults, we don't listen to kids, we're basically saying that their voices are invalid, and they're not worth anything. And what better way to cultivate part of the nonsense that's going on today than by telling kids that they have no value? You may not like what they're doing, but I mean, they have value. Everybody has value.
Yeah, totally. Oh man. Yeah. No, I hear you on that. Yeah. The listening piece, right? I mean, yes. Yes. How important. And for a lot of kids that roll into your classroom, they go home, mom and dad, or mom is out working, 2-3 jobs, whatever the case may be, right? All different circumstances. They're not necessarily getting locked in listening.
Nope.
Which again, I know you're a math teacher, right? But also what you found, an incredible ingredient to being a really good math teacher, has been, I'm here to listen too. Like, I'm not just in it, like, here's the algebraic equations and boom, adios, get out of here.
Yeah.
It's like, and again, we're all different, but I hear you. I definitely hear you on, like, here's to more teachers realizing the power of listening and showing up for kids' voices, like empowering kids to use their voice and talk through stuff and letting them know they matter.
I think that's changing too. I think that's evolving, because I remember when I was in school, I didn't dare I did not feel empowered to speak out against, I don't want to say against necessarily, but to have conversations like that with teachers. I didn't feel like, I felt that I was just a little student machine that was put into it, and my job is to go, I'm going to go through this class rotation every day, and then my little machine is going to go home, and I'm going to produce some output, and then I'm going to come back tomorrow, and I'm going to, here's my deliverables, and get a new thing to do. That's how I felt. That's how I thought I was. And then when you get on the other side, you realize, like, look, like, that may be how 1 out of 40 students is, but everybody else, there's something else going on. It's incredible. It's incredible to think, Aaron, that I would say at our time at Kellis, and I'm sure there's kids that we had in our classes that are probably going to listen, and they'll probably go, yeah, that's probably true. I would venture to say that for over half of them, your room and my room were probably two of the most stable places that their lives, that they were in their day. That was like the place where in their life at that moment was going to be the most stability that they would have. And I find that just shocking. And that's not right, man. It shouldn't be like that.
Right.
We shouldn't have to, we shouldn't have to worry about things like that, but we do. And that's why I think the role of the teacher is evolving into so many things. And some teachers, and you can tell, right? You can tell the people, I can tell anyway. I'm sure you can too. It's pretty easy to see the ones who've been at it for a long time, and they're just like, oh, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to, give them their lessons. And if they can't do it, they're going to take their F and blah, blah, blah. Like, bro, you can't do that anymore. You just can't. You have to listen. You have to be involved. And some days you have to take the lesson plan and go, yeah, we're not doing that. We're having a movie day, and we're going to talk about this, and we're going to have a conversation, because it's not appropriate for today. I have too many kids who are struggling with other things. I have too many kids who didn't sleep last night. I didn't have too many kids. It's like you said, parents are not paying attention to them, and not the kid's fault. So I think you're going to see that. I think you're going to see like empathy is a huge thing that's becoming more prevalent in classrooms. And it's easy it's a hard lesson for adults to show kids how to be empathetic, especially when some of them come from the backgrounds that they come from. So, but empathy is huge. Listening, mindfulness. Some days some days we just have to color, because that's how it's going to be. And we're going to color, and we're just going to be quiet. And we're going to listen to some music, and that's going to be how it is. And we have to be able to do things like that. Right now, I think it's a struggle. It's a struggle because we have, I can go online right now and I can say, Aaron, this is my job for this year, is I have to teach all these math lessons this year. Oh, by the way, they didn't tell you that all 180 of these people, because they're people and not machines, all 180 of these people that you're going to teach are going to come from different places. Some of them aren't even going to have homes. And, it's just, there's so many variables, right? And sometimes you just have to put, what? Sorry, state, California, this ain't happening today. You know what's happening today? We're coloring. Because that's going to be better for my kids today.
Whoosh. Wow, dude. Yes. This is the evolution, right? I mean, this is the evolution of life in the classroom, that I think what I hear you describing is like, the teachers that are really showing up, right? I mean, obviously, like, I can go in and bust through lessons, right? But it's like, how can I show up with my personality, my presence, and right, like you just said, what just jumped out at me was when you said there are people, 180 humans, right?
Yeah.
It's like, as I'm walking through the airport the other day, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there are so many people. Like, and it's like, everybody's got a story. These kids that come into your classroom, everybody's got a story. You go to the grocery, everybody's got a story. You go to the coffee shop, everybody's got a story. How do we show up in a way, kind, compassionate, curious? I do think, I mean, I'm with you.
And I think one of the things that's, and I'm not trying to criticize people who are like, some people just aren't that way. Right. And that's okay. If you're not that way, that's fine. Yeah, I might make a suggestion that you probably move into another profession that doesn't involve so many people skills, because that's what you got to have those to be successful. And, one of the things that brought me back into teaching was those relationships. It's being able to develop those relationships. It's being able to show somebody, let me show you that you can do something that you never thought you could do. Those are things that when I was a software engineer, I didn't get those, like, yeah, I can code a method, but what did I do? Well, I made $1 million for a company, and that's great. So, but yeah, it's all about, it's compassion, especially right now. There's so much going on. It's just, we got to be compassionate. We got to be empathetic. We've got to listen. And we have to change things. The way things are done just have to change.
So good. So that follow-up is, I mean, you're dropped. Like, did you know all this when you first started?
Oh, no.
Or is this kind of over, like, it's been a process, right? Where you're like, oh, snap.
Oh,
kids
for
are really
sure.
Kids are really responding when I occasionally am like, all right, hey, no math today, folks.
Yeah.
We need some mental health time, like, we need to color or watch a show and have a conversation or something,
Yeah. Or we need to do an activity, or, we need to talk about, maybe I had an issue this past year where I was out for the day. I think I don't remember for why. I come back and the kids go in a particular class are like, did we get a good note from the sub? And I just look at them and I go, if you have to ask if you got a good note, you already know the answer is probably no. Yeah. And so we dropped all of our math, and we did an activity that day where I put situations up on the board, and like, okay, we're going to talk about these situations, and you're going to move around the room and discuss them and talk about why it's okay and why it's not. And we're going to come to an understanding that you're not going to behave like this, because you can't, you can't. And it's hard. It's hard because especially this past year was a lot of these kids, they hadn't been in school in a long time. And so they forgot how to be in school. So you have to teach them that, hey, this is not okay. Like, I like you. This is not okay.
Yeah.
And those are hard conversations to have too. But they have to be had. We want, I want my kids to leave and be productive and be great, caring individuals. Yeah. But sometimes you have to have those hard conversations where it's like, look, you can't do this. You can't behave like you're behaving. You can't, be aggressive towards other kids. You can't treat them like crap. You have to be nice. If you don't, it goes back to a Disney movie. If you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything. That's, that's not,
yeah.
So those things are hard. And especially coming out of 2020 and 2021, those are challenges. Those are legit challenges, but there's hope because, you see kids turn the corner, and you'll see kids change their behaviors, and you'll see kids act differently. And that's super cool.
Yeah.
One of the things that I did last year a lot, when the weather got warmer, was I'd run out on the track after work, and a lot of my kids were either doing football or track or some sort of activity out there, and they'd see me out there running around the track and doing my work, and like, they look at you and it's like, wait a second, shouldn't you be doing math problems? It's like, look, no, I'm going to come out here and I'm going to enjoy myself, and I have things to do and I have work to do because I want to get better at some other things. So I'm going to go run around this track 32 times, and half of them are going to be hard and half of them are not. And you're going to see me for an hour and 15 minutes. And then, and they just look and it's just another one of those things that just adds to your credibility, right? And adds to your realness, is when they see you doing things like that, and that's like, I would have never thought about when I was a student, seeing another teacher out there doing something other than a coach trying to help me out. I would have never thought that would have happened. Yeah. So, it's just, it's a lot of little things, Aaron. It's a lot of little things that I've gathered over my lifetime, that just, those are the things that matter, man. I don't care if you solve an equation. That's great. That'll help you out sometime. But man, can you think, and can you be a good person, and can we be real? And that's really important.
Totally love it. So final question on the teaching piece, and even we may circle back, but 15 years, like you said, you left for a little bit, came back. What keeps you rocking? You know what I mean? Like what is it that keeps you saying, you know what, I'm signing up for another year. I'm going back. I just know a lot of teachers have said adios last 3 years, last 5 years, and then they're gone. Like, what's kept you in the game? What's got you still in the game?
I just try to just be different. And not like I try to evolve. I try to do different things. If things aren't working, I'm not afraid to change. And I think that's something that what's it? The Einstein's definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and hoping you get different results. Well, maybe you shouldn't do things over and over. Maybe if they didn't work, maybe you should try something else. And I think some teachers are afraid to do that. And I think it costs them, and it costs the profession too, because that doesn't mean they're bad people. There's opportunities. And if you can take advantage of the opportunities, and look, the other thing that I've learned too is nobody's ever asked me to be perfect at my job. Yeah. Because it's not, I'm a human too. So it's not realistic. I screw up all the time. And I'm not afraid to admit it, especially with my kids. Like, I'll do a lesson and they'll be looking at me like with the deer in the headlights, and I'll just look at them and I go, yeah, that sucked, huh? We'll try again tomorrow, and we'll do it a little bit different. We'll see if we can't get it again. And I go back and I go, oh, let's see what worked, what didn't, and just things like that. And so I just try to be better, and I just try to do things better. I've already noticed some things that I've thought about over the last 3 or 4 weeks from last year that I'm going to change and I'm going to incorporate next year. I tried some things last year at the end that I thought worked. I'm going to try them on a bigger scale this year. So I think when you get, if you can stay fresh and once again, stay relevant and do different things and not be afraid to do them, I think it makes it easy to just go, you know what, these kids will be fine. I think we'll be okay. I think kids respect it when you mess up. That's just me. I think they do, because they understand that, wow, he's getting paid to do this and he totally screws this up. So, and one of the things about kids right now is they're petrified to mess up. And I don't know where that happened. Like, I've gotten to the point where I'm not afraid to mess up at certain things. And if you make a mistake, you make a mistake and you move on. And that's the end of that. And there's, I don't know if it's just parents who want 1600s and want all their kids to go to Harvard. I don't know if it's just the pressure at home. I don't know if it's pressure from others, right? Because they see other kids and they're like, look, one of the things that running's taught me is that there's nobody I'm competing against other than myself. That I'm my only competitor. And if I can be better tomorrow than I am today, then I'm victorious. And that's one of the things that kids need to understand is like, nobody cares. I don't care. I don't even know who finished higher than me in school. I don't know. I don't care. I don't know who finished lower than me. Don't know. I don't care. All I know is that I did the best that I could. And that it is what it is. So once the kids, when they can get to that point, well, I'll just find something new to teach them, so.
Yeah, dude, that's so good. That's so good. That's so good. And I mean, I think that, cause I can think back and the whole comparison stuff, and obviously so I would imagine like social media, the kids are getting on, they're like constantly, you and I, when we were in school, all we had as comparison was like after a test, the teacher who put them up on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And then you were like, oh, 94, oh, 78, or, like you would see yourself. That was the comparison chart where then you started to measure yourself with your classmates or PE, right? Whether you got picked first or last or in between the middle, you started to like get these gauges as to what, am I athletic? Am I artistic? Am I good at math?
Mm-hmm.
Am I a good reader? Right? You got all these but that was all just at school. But these kids, they go home and then they're like, oh, that kid's got the new shirt. Oh, that kid's got some shoes. Oh, what about, like
that kid's YouTube?
That must be a little.
Oh, no. Yeah, no, you're exactly right. That kid's YouTube channel has 1,400 subscribers. I have 6. How can I get to 1,401?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And comparison.
And it's just, it's so, it's hard. Look, I empathize with them. This is a hard time to grow up, especially with that kind of pressure. So whatever I can do, to help alleviate some of that pressure on a kid is, I think that's a victory.
Totally. And reminding them, right, where it's like just being a model of that, whether it's through your running, giving them little downloads about running or things you're learning while you're running. And, oh, I was out at this race and I don't even know what place I got, but it didn't matter. I finished. And that was,
right? That's one of the things. Like I was running on the track one day and I go into class the other day and one of the kid, the next day, and the kid goes, how fast is your mile? I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
Like, well, what do you mean you don't know? I don't know. I don't care.
Yeah.
I care about how fast my race is on the race day, and I care about how fast my training is on the training day, and everything else just falls into place. I really don't care.
Yeah.
He's like, sorry, man. That's just how it is.
Right. You're not locking into mile repeats, trying to get your mile time down.
Yeah, exactly. If
Currently, that's not the priority.
Yeah. If you know what, and if that was my goal, I would, yeah, exactly right. Yeah, I could probably tell you. I still don't even know what my fastest mile is. I couldn't tell you.
Oh, dude, so good, so good. Well, thanks for being a healing presence in the classrooms you've been in, and I'm excited for the students that are going to get to meet you this coming year.
I'm excited for them too.
Really, right? Just like exhilarated. And I think I also hear you talking about your curiosity and your listening. I mean, the way in which you're showing up is also, it's you intrigued about them, and then like you create this amazing connection and energy exchange that they feel safe there. They feel like they can go into your classroom and like, all right, you're going to tell them when they're not doing the correct thing. And also they're going to feel safe to study, safe to practice their math, safe to be themselves.
Yeah. So. Well, and that's the last part is the most important, right? You gotta be safe to feel safe to be themselves. I think I've told you before, I think we were running one day and I made a comment that said something like, I don't care where you're from, but I do care where you're from. And my thought process behind that was like, look, if you're from, a bad home and you're not getting any sleep at night because of my heart goes out to you. I'm going to do everything I can to help you, to listen to you, to take time out for you. But at the same time, that doesn't absolve you necessarily from, the type of person that you should be in this life. It sucks and I'll do everything for you, but I'm still going to tell you when you're screwing off, and I'm going to tell you when you're taking the wrong path. And I mean, even further than that, I still think you can be a successful person no matter where you're from. I don't really care.
Yes.
It just may take a little bit more love and support, but you can get there.
Yeah. Huge. So tell me Tony Alvarado, you didn't just show up 15 years ago to the classroom.
No.
And then you've just been doing all your learning since. Like, what, were there any pivotal moments in your upbringing where you were like, light bulbs were going off, like, hey, I'm here to be a kind human being. Hey, I'm here, like when you decided to get into teaching, like, hey, I want to, like, I don't know, I really want to make a difference in this world, or, what were those like? Were there a couple like moments or people like from Tony's early years where you're like, because we got so many paths to choose, and you've chosen to be an amazing math teacher for 15 years.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
A math whisperer, math healer, whatever you want to call it. I would give you all those names. But how'd you, any pivotal moments from growing up, like where you look back and you're like, yeah, you know what? Maybe that's why I can empathize with these kids. Oh, maybe this is why I can, why I'm the way I am. Anyway.
I mean, I lived in a pretty cool, my upbringing was pretty good, but, I did move away when I was 17. When I graduated 17, I moved away, and I had a goal that like, I'm not moving back. And so what that did for me, I mean, I went back for a summer and went back home for a summer, but other than that, I was like, no, I'm not. And so what that did was that got me to just work hard. I started working my tail off, doing what I could to be successful. And then when I graduated, about a year before I graduated from college, about 10 of us took a trip down to Arizona. I was living in Reno, and we all took a trip down to Arizona for a weekend. And I was in love. Like when I got there, I was like, oh my gosh, this is where I want to be. And so um, I told the girl that I was seeing at the time, I'm like, when we got back to Reno, I go, I am moving here when I graduate. I'm like, I'm moving to Arizona, and that's that. And you can either go with me or you cannot go, but I'm moving. And so what that did was like every decision I was making then was with that goal in mind of moving. And then I moved, and it was great. I'm like, we're living in Tempe, and I'm 23 years old. I'm like, this is the life. And my job sucked. Like the job I took was horrible. I took a job basically to move. And so when I took the job is like doing collections or something. So I'm getting up at 4 a.m. to call people to ask them to pay their bills, which is like the worst job in the world. And so that's how I learned how to use a job as a means to reach a goal, because I'm like, you know what? Every decision I make now is to get out of this job and get a better job. And then I did marketing for a while. And then I was like, you know what? I got laid off. I'm like, there's got to be something better out there. And so I went to a job fair, and I'm a teaching job fair. And I'm like, I bet I could teach. I've been to teacher school. I bet I can do it. And so I did it, and the first year, just like they say, the first year was bloody awful. Like I barely knew what I was doing, and I couldn't do jack crap right. But, luckily, the principal teamed me up with Jim Mustafo, and that was it. He goes, okay, this is how we're going to do it. And he goes, he goes, I'm different than you. I go, I know. And he goes, there's probably going to be some things you're going to take out of my style and add to your style. I go, there's a couple things about you that I really like, but I'm going to be my own person. And that was that. And Mustafa was always just kind of like, and I love him to death. I love him to death. I'm very thankful, but I'm like, I can't be like that. I have to be me, man. I have to be a talker. I have to be engaged with kids. I think that's more important. And so from like my third year, that's when I was like, yeah, math, yeah, it's kind of important. You're probably more important. And so that's the journey that I've tried to evolve with. And then when we got to Kellis, and those were the years with the kids that I actually remember the most, just because that was a very impactful event period in my career, and it was also a very impactful period of my life. And so I remember those kids the most. And it's like, man, I can love these kids, and I can show them empathy and love and respect, and they're going to do the same thing back. And like, yes, I'm sure you remember there was a few that were kind of hard to handle, but for the most part, I didn't have any problems. And I think that shows like when teachers would come up to you and go, this kid's such a problem for me. And really, because that kid does everything I ask him to do and is a great kid. So I'm not sure where your disconnect is, but well, what's your secret? I don't know. I listen to him. I teach him, treat him with respect. I start there. And so, that's kind of, and then it just evolves from there, right? You go in different situations. You learn more. When I left teaching and went into software engineering, I learned a lot more about people, which was really cool, because I got to work with people from a lot of different backgrounds. Like there was a time when I was working at Choice where I had people from 5 different countries on my team at one time. It was fascinating because, we had the company had a celebration for a holiday called Diwali. And so the people who were into celebrating that holiday would dress up in their costumes and the garb and stuff, and bring in food. And I'm like, this is amazing. I would have never learned this in a textbook. And so now that's more experience that I can take to kids and go, hey, by the way, I just want to tell you about like what happens. You may read about this and you may see a 20-second video about it, but let me tell you about how it really is. And so, yeah, man, it's just all those little things that I just gather along the way, right? Just take a little bit here and there and just add and evolve. And just, I know it seems kind of boring and cliche, but that's really how it works for me. Is I just try to be better and try to evolve and try to be, take things and yeah, that works for me. Yeah, it doesn't work for me. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. Love that. Oh, and yeah. And I hear you saying like at 17, when you moved out, it was, all right, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go.
And I'm not saying that like,
I'm not moving out, completely, never going back again. But there was this like, all right, it's time. It's time. I'm ready to lock in. You went up to Reno.
Yep. And my parents are great, right? They're totally supportive and help me do whatever. So I'm kind of like lucky. I'm lucky in that way. And I totally realize it because my parents were totally good to me. But I worked for a lot of, my college career. I worked, because my goal was I lived on campus for a while. I met a girl. I was like, oh, I don't want to live on campus anymore. Great. Okay. Well, now I gotta get a job and crap. I got to pay bills and I have to transport myself from the job to the school and to the house, to the apartment and all this stuff. It's just like those little things, right? And things they don't teach you in school. Like that's real life, right? Those are like real math problems. But those things help me to be successful and then to be the person they help me be the person that I am. Right. And so, it's kind of a roundabout journey. Like I always tell people when I meet them that, and they ask me, well, what have you done in your life and blah, 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 and tell me a little about you. And I'm like, look, my journey is not a straight line. It's a squiggly line all the way, but the journey keeps moving forward as I go.
Yeah. It sounds like you are open. You're continuously open to learn, which I think is such a key component for like, I honestly for peace. Because if your garage door is down, I feel like for some reason, I used to think like, oh, you're 35 and then you know it all. Oh, this is just how I am. Sorry, Sarah, this is just how I am. We've heard this, right? We've heard this. Oh, I'm sorry, that's just how I am. And it's like, again, love and respect to all humans that are listening to this, or like, I know we have people in our lives that say this is just how I am, and for me, what I've found, and it seems like that's what you're locked in on, is like being willing to evolve and grow really allows for it brings new life into your life, right? I mean, it really does. It brings new creativity into your life, because as you're learning this new thing, this new skill, or this new tool in the classroom, and you're willing to actually engage with it, and then you apply it and you're like, oh snap, that was kind of cool. Kids really responded to that. Maybe, let me try it again next year. Like that willingness. Because I remember sometimes I would be like, oh snap, I didn't like the professional development days. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want to learn a new tool. I'm like, I don't know if I want to learn a new tool, but if you're willing, right, to be in that growth mindset, that learner mode, shoot, I gotta believe that if we had more curiosity as a humanity, that might be huge for the future of humanity.
Oh, I 100% agree with you, because like you said before, everybody has a story. I have a good friend who he does a podcast that's like his career, but he's a veteran and he was a spy and did all this cool stuff. But we've talked, I mean, he's got PTSD and, I mean, he had to survive bullets going around his head for so many years. And it's like, if people, if you could see the scars that people have that they don't show you, right? Because everybody has a story, but you can't see it unless they tell you. Like, I would never know my buddy was, a spy and had all these mental health issues because of his work. You'd never know that unless he told you. Right. And so, and then he tells you all these things that happen. And you're like, holy smokes, that's why you do things the way you do things. It's the same thing. I did research for a project where we talked to the same guy. We were talking to people who went to prison, murderers, right? That went to prison. And we're trying, and when you look at all the scars and from when they were like 10 until they're 17, right? All the stuff that they see and just like the things, the situations that they're put into, like you look at it and you go, well, no wonder they went to prison.
Yeah.
It was the only chance that they had to survive. Yeah. Like, I need to get caught for something so I can live behind walls. Yeah. Right. And oh, by the way, my choices are either going to prison or dying. It's like, and wow. And the reason why I bring that up is because you learn so much from that, and it just makes you look at people and their stories, and it's like, man, like no wonder you called me an effing jerk in class, because I just learned that you don't live with your mom and you don't live with your dad, and you things aren't great for you where you're at, and you learn these things. And if it's those things like you're talking about curiosity, right? If people went out and did a little bit of legwork and a little bit of research and see why people are the way they are, sometimes they'll find that it's not entirely their fault.
Yeah.
And then, that's going to impacts their life. And then, well, what can I do to help? Well, I can be that stable portion of their life, and I can continue to shower them with love and show them, I can show you all the right ways, right? Yeah. And give you all the tools to succeed. That's, I think you're right, because, we're too busy. Some of us are too busy being myopic, right? And we're like, we've got our heads down, and sometimes it has to be like that, right? Sometimes I just have to grind through my days and get that check and buy those groceries and pay that rent and,
totally
buy the kid toys and whatever it is. But sometimes you got to look up and go, holy smokes, look what's happening.
Yeah.
What can I do to be part of the solution and not part of the problem?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Wow, dude. Yeah. Those interviews sound incredible. As you were sharing about that, it made me think of like, I watched this documentary called The Wisdom of Trauma. And it was, they went into like a prison center with a community, like with a group. And when you hear some of these inmates share their story, and you're just like, what in the world? And so that, the point of the documentary was all about like, if we were trauma trained, or like we had some like trauma training, right? We would be able to show up for different characters way more easily, right? Where it's like, oh, I actually know how to respond in this scenario. This, I'm triggering I'm triggering some event that happened to this kid. Oh, yikes. Like, no wonder he just swore at me, like, no wonder he just lost his mind when I left the room. It's like, anyway,
they're trying to live their life. My buddy Pete is like, I got to get off of that X. I got to get off of that X. It's like,
like the trigger.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. When you're in that trigger moment. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, holy smokes, maybe I'll look at it, the way a kid's acting, and I'll go, holy smoke, I'm putting him on that X every single time. I can't do that.
Yeah.
That's not fair to him, and it's not fair to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that trauma is such an important part of like you said, being trauma trained.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard because these kids' stories nowadays are some of them are so just fraught with trauma. It's like,
yeah,
dude, you're 15 years old. There's no
you're
way.
like, you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me right
I'm
now.
40 something years old, and I haven't had to deal with 1/4 of that in my life.
Yeah.
Right. And so,
yeah,
it's hard.
Yeah. I do feel like, I guess, I mean, your evidence, you and what you're doing in your classroom gives me hope. Right. And I know there's other teachers like you, and I know there's other humans that are we're having our ears peeled for like more awareness, more compassion, right? More skill sets to be able to respond to life and people, and how, so yeah. How do you stay hopeful? Like, so with all, you and I touch on it occasionally when we're out running, talk about world stuff or country stuff or whatever, like, how do you stay hopeful? I mean, do you allow yourself to look at the news? Can you even look at it? Or do you kind of have to, like, because you're really going in to 180 kids. You got to be kidding me. Like, you're going in and that, to me, anyway.
So that's a good question though. Cause like I said, sometimes, and it's okay. Sometimes we just put our heads down and we're focused on the task and focus on the task. And that's all we're going to do. But I mean, the news is depressing as all get out. It's terrible. I don't understand like how we've gotten to a point where there's so much hate. It breaks my heart. Like, and I think about, and like, I've been listening to a lot of music, and some of my favorite music is like post-punk music, new wave music, and then grunge music. And there's just all sorts of angst in grunge music and in post-punk music, right? Like early Clash is all like, I hate the government and screw you, and or like the grunge movement is just like, oh, my life sucks and I'm a rock star. But that's just like nothing compared to what we see now. It's like, I just, it hurts my heart when I see so much just all out, just bad feelings toward other people. But luckily kids are help give me hope, right? They do. They, for the most part, they're pretty good with each other. There's a point where you have to shut down. You just have to put it down and go, you know what? I can't today. I just can't. It's going to drive me bananas. At March, so March 2020 happens. We're all sent home, and then around April, May, it was just, I couldn't watch TV. I couldn't do any of that stuff. I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to lose myself in my work right now, my music and my running and my family, and that's what I'm going to focus on right now. Because it was so just, it was like something bad was happening every day. I can't handle that. I need the positivity. Luckily, and then I, luckily I see kids that are totally doing the right things. They're super cool to each other. I used to get all kind of like, I'm like, I'd see kids, like guys in the hallway, and like every other guy, they're like giving them up some sort of handshake or something. And 15 years ago, I've been like, what the hell are you doing that for? And now I'm like, you know what? You need that. You need that. You need that validation from that other person that says, you know what, you're on my side. And so, it's super cool to see kids back together, getting along, doing their things. sometimes it doesn't. We had a lot of fights this past year, so more than that was my only year at that at the school I was at last year, and I guess it was compared to the last time that there were kids there for the whole year. There was an increase in the amount of altercations.
Yeah.
I expect that because we have to retrain them now, right? They have to learn the norms again. But for the most part, everybody was pretty good.
Yeah.
I just look at my family and my friends, and just as long as we're staying healthy and doing what we have to do, and just being good people, if we can be models, right? If we can be models for the behavior that we would desire, we're likely to see that behavior duplicated, especially as a teacher. I really believe that. So, I just keep trying to walk it like I talk it. And
yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, totally. So the kids really, it's like kids bring you hope. As you see kids, being kind, having good relationships, like going after their goals, that sort of stuff. It's like, okay, yes, all of this is happening. How do I stay focused on some hopeful things? I've said in previous episodes that 2022 is like my year of seeking to rebuild the hope.
100%.
Yeah, because I definitely 2020, 2021 was like, dude, everybody is yelling and I just want to shut it all off. Like I can't even handle it anymore. Like it was just so, and maybe it's because we haven't been taught to, or there hasn't been a model like on the macro scale. We haven't seen it modeled. Like, I don't know, in college, I remember going to like a symposium or something like that. And it was like, there was a Muslim dude, a Christian dude, a Jewish dude, and it was a religious conversation, and they literally had this like beautiful rotation. It was about war, right? It was like their stance on war. So there was like the pacifist, there was the just war theory, and you had these different voices. And I feel like hearing those voices was such a model to me. I'm like, sign me up for that.
Yep.
Like if the macro world would model for us more like healthy debate and or dialogue. And you and I both know healthy debate was not our presidential debates. Healthy debate, where it's like, hey, let's hear where this person's coming from and actually get to know what they stand for and what they don't stand for. And anyway, just a little. So this year is all about like rebuilding my hope somehow, some way, even though like it doesn't. Every time I do turn on the news, I'm like, oh yeah, because I don't think it's getting any lighter.
It's not working on it. Yeah, exactly.
It's not necessarily all turning to light while I'm trying to grow my hope back.
You make a great point because, one of the things that's really hurting us now is you have to pick a side. And it seems like you have to pick a side on everything. Like, are you a Hawaiian pizza guy or are you not a Hawaiian pizza guy?
Right.
Like, and if you're a Hawaiian pizza guy, the people who aren't Hawaiian pizza guys are just like, get the hell out of here because you obviously don't know anything. Your taste in pizza sucks. And that probably means that a lot of your taste in your other things sucks as well. Yeah. And it's like, come on, man. Like, there's a lot of things that are not mutually exclusive that people seem to make mutually exclusive, and it's not fair. And all it does is it hurts us. It hurts us. We have to be able to evolve. There are ways. I was talking to my buddy Eric about this last week. We're all of us guys on a group text, we're all like 46, 47 years old.
Yeah.
There's no way that we would be doing the same things at 46, 47, 48 that we would have done at 26, 27, 28. There's no way that we would even, there's probably no way. I know for me that there's no way that There's things that I was doing when I was 38 that I'm doing now.
Mm-hmm.
And I also know that my thought process on things has changed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
We're allowed to do that, because if we don't do that, then we just turn into these irrelevant curmudgeons who they point and laugh at us as we're sitting on our porch cursing at the lawn, when we're 68, 78 years old.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be able to evolve. And one of the things that I think is hurting us right now is we don't have examples of being able to evolve.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you turn on the TV right now and you see, some influencer or some politician, and it's like, this is how it is, and I hate guns, and so we need to outlaw guns.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 10 years later, they're like, well, we have to outlaw guns.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there is room to move around. I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah.
There's room in our brains and a room in our beliefs to change things up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. If we don't do those things, we're destined to just ruin ourselves.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about healthy debate, that's important for getting people to be able to think about other things. I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican. Well, and then, it doesn't, what we see right now is like, there's no examples of them having conversations going, well, this actually sounds like a really good idea.
Right.
Maybe we should work together on that. It's just like, it's one side or the other.
Yeah.
You can't live your life like that.
Right.
You just can't. You can try, but I don't think your life is going to be as successful it's not going to deliver as much opportunity. You're just going to be one of those just people that doesn't grow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I feel like culturally, I feel like our willingness to listen has gotten shorter and shorter, like our attention span, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now literally all we can handle is, it's literally like, it's the headline. I don't even click on the darn thing to read further and then dive in and actually, do a little fact checking and do my own research on it. Like I literally just read the headlines. Like I pop on like the three mainstream news media channels or whatever. And I'm like, just read the headlines. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. They said it differently on this website. Oh, they said it differently here, but my attention span, right? The attention span or the willingness to learn, I think we've gotten way shorter. And so it's like, how do we, anyway, so.
Yeah, I think, no, that's, you're totally right. Right. Yeah. Like why should I go below the fold, as they used to say? Yeah. Why should I go below the fold if I can read 7 words and that just automatically puts a thought into my mind?
Yeah.
One of the things that I tease the kids about in class is like, you got to do the work.
Yeah.
Like you have to do the work. You can't just like, Google is might answer a math question for you, but you're never going to know why it happens.
Mm-hmm.
Why does the derivative of a parabola give me the slope of a straight line?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you got to do the work and figure it out. Yeah. Or why do I think, this is personal belief. Yeah. Why do I think Alice in Chains' Dirt album is better than Nirvana's Nevermind album? Well, because I did the work to listen to them track for track, song for song, over the course of a long time. And I've just figured out that, you know what, I like the musicianship better on the Alice in Chains album than I like on the Nirvana album.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do
the work.
You got to do the work.
Like learn, like really dive in and learn. Like,
yeah. And it's okay if your belief, you go in with one belief and you come out of it and you go, you know what, you're right.
Yeah.
Or it's okay if I go into it and go, you know what, I've changed my mind.
Yeah.
I think this album is a lot better than the other one. That's okay.
Yeah.
And we don't have to be on a side for life. We can change things around. We can evolve. We can grow.
Yeah.
And we don't have enough examples of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, good stuff. Well, dude, I always love when we get to dive in, because I feel like both of us show up with kind of like some ideas and thoughts about the state of the world,
Yeah.
but I also feel like we both have an equal amount of curiosity to hear kind of, oh, what are you thinking about all this? Or, and that's refreshing to me. That I think gives me hope. That gives me hope that more of, more people will be like, oh, let's dive in and like hear each other on that.
Yeah.
You
You
know,
gotta,
yeah,
you
we
gotta,
I feel like that's what we have to see grow. Yeah. Anyway. Oh
yeah,
well, dude.
you gotta make time for others so
Yeah,
you can be better for yourself. You just have
totally,
to.
totally. Yeah, dude. So thankful. Yeah, I mean, I definitely am just appreciative of who you are and the way you're showing up in the world. And I'm looking forward to our run later here in July.
Oh, me too.
Yeah,
Aaron, it's always fun getting together with you. I love you, brother.
yeah.
This
Dude,
is,
I got a closing question for you. Is that all right?
oh yeah, for sure.
All right. So final question is, you're in an arena.
Mm-hmm.
It could be teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, no, it's everyday humans. It's everyday humans from all walks of life.
Okay.
But these people have come to this conference really wanting to grow, really wanting to learn, really wanting to evolve. What would you close with? What are a couple like, you've shared such beautiful downloads already throughout, but like, what would be a couple that you like as you're closing your speech,
Mm-hmm.
where people are like, all right, they're on the edge of their seats and they're ready to write it down and then walk
Mm-hmm.
away and apply it, or walk away and try it, or walk away and chew on it, like, what do you want people to?
So I would offer a couple of things. First thing is, we're all works in progress. We're all works in progress. It's okay to evolve. It's okay to change. Don't be set in your ways. We just talked about, we know people who are set in their ways, and it sucks for them because they'll never be able to grow spiritually, intellectually. They just won't be able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to evolve. I also say be a lifelong learner, not just from a book. Just because you don't have to read a book to learn. You can listen to music and learn. You can watch people and their actions and learn. You can, and it doesn't have to be, it can be a professor, it can be your best friend, it could be in a conversation like this where we're just talking. You can always learn from somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important for us. That's important to evolve, in my opinion. But always be a learner. But then the third thing, and this is something that I've learned, I learned it because it helped me when I wanted to get back into teaching, but it's something that I've learned, especially over the past couple of years, is don't be afraid to stop. I heard someone once call it strategically stopping. They're like, I didn't quit. I strategically stopped. And I was like, that's really interesting. I was really fascinated by that. And the way that I interpreted it was, if something's not fulfilling your needs, stop doing it. Even if it goes against the norm, stop doing it. If you've been in a career, maybe you've worked at a cubicle for 25 years and you're just like, you know what? I'm kind of done doing it. Well, be done with it. Stop. Don't do it anymore. There's probably something else there. And when I think about the term strategically stop, to me, it implies that there's something else there that's a better alternative. And so don't be afraid to strategically stop something that you don't like, that's not relationship, a book, whatever it is. Don't be afraid to stop. You can say no. That's one of the things I told someone. I was at a work conference last week, and I was like, it'd be a really good professional development for teachers, learning to say no, because all we do is we just say yes. And that's why people love us, is because we're always saying yes. But for our mental health and our mental capacities, sometimes you have to stop and sometimes you have to say no. And so that would be the third thing, is learn how to strategically stop.
Yes. Yes. Dude, love all of those. I love you, man. I'm so grateful.
Me too.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for making the time. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for sharing your voice here. And yeah, dude, I'm excited to keep growing alongside you for
Me
many,
too.
many years. And
I'm very grateful that you are a short drive down the road. So we will definitely be seeing each other later this month.
Yeah,
I
sounds
can't
good.
wait for that.
Totally. Those of you who joined, if this was your first episode, welcome. Thanks for being here. If you've been around for past episodes, thanks for coming back. Thanks for diving in. I just will close with keep going, keep being courageous, keep making the little shifts, keep transforming. Every little step you and I, all of us make, Tony makes today, every little positive step we make for ourselves benefits the whole, right? Tony going on a run this morning, that benefits the whole. It benefits his family. It benefits the neighborhood they see him running, right? I mean, we are influencing the whole when we make positive choices for ourselves. So keep going. You've got a friend in Aaron and Our Healing Voices. You got a friend in Tony Alvarado. Tony Alvarado, thanks for being here. Episode 43 of Our Healing Voices.
Thank you, Aaron.
All right, brother.